I broke my leg in 3 places. That's when she started taking care of me. I didn't know it then, but she was also breaking down every wall I'd built around my heart. For 3 years after Nicole, my heart was locked up tight. I promised myself I would never fall in love again. Love, especially the kind I felt for women, that crazy, intense kind of love, had almost destroyed me once. I wouldn't let it happen again. So I climbed rocks instead. I put all my energy into climbing. I pulled myself up steep mountains, proving to myself that I didn't need anyone. I was strong. I was fine alone. I was enough. Then gravity won. One mistake. One moment when I thought about Nicole while climbing a route I knew by heart. And I fell. 20 feet down. I heard my leg crack. It broke in 3 places. It felt like punishment, like the universe was laughing at me. 2 weeks after surgery, my apartment became a prison. Everything I needed was just out of reach. The remote control. My books. My tea. Everything. I was stuck in a wheelchair. It was heavy and loud. It hit the walls. It reminded me every second that I was helpless. I survived the first day at home eating protein bars and feeling angry at everything. But then came the real problem. I needed to shower. I hadn't showered in 2 days. I felt dirty and ashamed. I rolled my wheelchair to the bathroom door. The space was tiny. The plastic shower seat from the hospital looked useless. Getting from the wheelchair into the shower seemed impossible. But I had to try. My pride demanded it. It went badly. I got 1 foot in the tub. My hand grabbed the soap dish. Then my hand slipped. Pain exploded in my head. I fell back into the wheelchair and cried out. My body shook. Tears filled my eyes. This was the bottom. Broken, alone, and I couldn't even wash my own hair. That's when I heard the key in the door. Jordan, my roommate for 6 months. A woman I barely knew. She was a landscape design student, always drawing in her notebook. We were polite strangers who shared an apartment. We said good morning and stayed out of each other's way. Now she was about to see me at my worst. Riley, her voice was soft. You okay? I heard something. I wiped my eyes fast. My voice came out rough. Fine. Just moving stuff around. Her footsteps came closer. She appeared in the bathroom doorway. Her bag was still on her shoulder. Her dark hair was in a messy bun. A few curls framed her face. Her eyes, green like moss, took in everything. Me in the wheelchair, looking defeated. The shower seat crooked. The wet spot on the mat. My tears. She didn't look shocked. She didn't look sorry for me. She looked calm, like she was solving a problem. Trying to shower? She asked. Her voice was normal. Matter of fact. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. It was humiliating. I waited for the awkward, let me help you, that would make everything worse. Instead, she just put her bag down. Okay, she said simply. Like I'd asked her to pass the salt. Let me put a towel down so the chair doesn't slip. You want the water hot or really hot? The question was so practical. So normal. It surprised me completely. The locked door in my chest, the one I'd sealed 3 years ago, opened just a crack. In that moment, I knew I had no choice but to let her in. The first time was pure embarrassment. I sat on the shower stool. A towel covered my lap. My arms crossed over my chest. The bathroom felt too small. Full of her and my shame. Jordan moved quickly and quietly. She didn't talk much. She just worked. Her movements were careful and gentle. She adjusted the shower head. She tested the water with her hand. Then she looked at me. Ready? She asked. I nodded, staring at the tiles on the wall. Counting them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anything to avoid looking at her. The water hit my skin. I flinched. Too hot. Her voice was concerned but calm. It's fine, I said through my teeth. She picked up the shampoo bottle. I heard it click open. Then her fingers were in my hair. Gentle but firm. Working the shampoo into foam. I closed my eyes tight. This was the worst part. Having someone else wash my hair. It felt so personal. So intimate. I tried to pretend I was somewhere else. Tried to pretend this wasn't happening. But my body wouldn't let me forget. I noticed everything. The smell of her skin, clean and earthy. The way water dripped down her arm. The soft touch of her hand against my neck. It sent a shock through me. I stored all these details away in my mind. She was just my roommate. A kind roommate doing me a favor. That's all this was. That's all it could be. My muscles were tense. My shoulders up by my ears. My jaw clenched tight. I was a statue made of shame. I can do the rest, I said. My voice was strained. It's easier if I just rinse you, she said. Her voice was neutral. Lean your head back a little. It wasn't a question. It was an instruction. And I obeyed without thinking. The warm water ran over my hair. For just a moment, some of the tension left me. When she was done, she gave me a washcloth and soap. I'll turn around, she said. And she did, giving me privacy for the rest. The whole thing took 10 minutes. But it felt like forever. When she finally helped me dry off, wrapping a warm towel around me and helping me back into the wheelchair, I couldn't say thank you. The words were stuck in my throat. I just nodded once. Then I went to my room and shut the door. The click was loud in the silence. I sat there in the dark, shaking. And I hated myself for needing her. The days after that were strange and uncomfortable. I was determined to do things myself, which mostly meant I was stubborn and made mistakes. I'd try to make coffee and spill hot water everywhere. I'd try to get a book and knock over 3 others. Every failed attempt was embarrassing. Jordan never said, "I told you so." She would just appear with a towel and quietly clean up my mess. Her patience made me angry. It showed me how childish I was being. I can do it myself. I snapped one afternoon when she offered to get me water. She was at the counter cutting vegetables. She looked at me. Her head tilted slightly. Her face was calm. "I know you can," she said. Her voice was steady. "But you don't have to." Those simple words hit me hard. It wasn't pity. It was permission. Permission to be weak. To accept help. To admit I needed someone. I hated it. I hated how she made it seem so easy. Because for me, it wasn't easy at all. Accepting help felt like giving up. It felt like admitting that all the walls I'd built were useless. That I was still that broken woman Nicole had left behind. With Nicole, I had depended on her completely. I built my whole life around her. When she left, when she told me I was too much, that loving me was like drowning, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was destroyed. Completely broken. I swore I would never be that person again. Never be that weak. Never need anyone like that. And now here I was in a wheelchair, needing help with everything. The universe really had a sick sense of humor. Our conversations stayed simple. "Can you pass the remote? The mail is there. Need anything from the store?" We stayed in our own spaces, like planets that circle each other but never touch. But in the silence, during all those hours on the couch, I found myself watching her. I was trapped, and she was all I could see. I learned the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she read. Her lips moved with the words. I learned the sound of her pen on paper, a rhythm that calmed me and put me to sleep sometimes. I noticed the small scar above her left eyebrow, a thin white line. I wondered where it came from, what story was behind it. I wondered a lot about Jordan, but I never asked. Asking felt like crossing a line, like going somewhere I had no right to go. It was safer to watch from a distance, safer to keep things as they were. Patient and helper, broken person and fixer. That was a role I understood, a distance I could keep. Anything more than that scared me. The shower routine became normal. Every other day, the same ritual. It got a little less awful each time. It settled into something we both just did. I learned to relax my shoulders, to let her wash my hair without my whole body going stiff. I stopped counting tiles, stopped trying to escape in my mind. To pay her back for helping me, I did what I could from the wheelchair. I paid bills online. I ordered groceries. I sorted the mail. I called customer service when the internet broke. It wasn't much, but it made me feel slightly less useless. We spent our evenings in the living room. Me on the couch with my leg up on pillows, scrolling through my phone or pretending to read. Her at the big dining table, her head down over her drawings. The warm light from her lamp made a golden circle in the dark room. Sometimes the only sounds were her turning pages and me tapping my phone. The silence wasn't always comfortable. Often it felt heavy, full of things we weren't saying, questions we weren't asking. I was watching her life from the sidelines. I watched her pack her bag each morning, her movements smooth and graceful. I listened to her quiet voice on the phone with her mother, speaking so gently it made my chest hurt. I saw the way her whole face lit up when she figured out a design problem. A small smile that was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I was learning her the way you learn a place you can't leave. Every detail, every corner. I knew she drank tea with honey and lemon, never milk. I knew she was a terrible singer, but hummed all the time anyway. A happy sound that made the apartment feel less empty. I knew she had smooth gray stones on her windowsill. She'd collected them from different beaches. Each one a memory. Each detail was a small treasure I collected, turning them over in my mind during long, sleepless nights. My thoughts, once full of anger and self-pity, were now full of her. Why does she chew her pen like that? What song is she humming? Her hands are so steady. What would they feel like? No. Stop. The awareness of her was growing, slowly winding its way through my defenses, finding every crack. Then came the moment that changed everything. I was on the couch one evening, half watching some reality show where people yelled at each other. Jordan laughed from the table. It wasn't a big laugh, just a soft sound, but it made me look up. She was looking at her phone, a real smile on her face, the kind that makes someone glow. What's so funny? I asked. The question came out before I could stop it. It was more than I'd said in days. She looked up. Her cheeks turned pink. Oh, nothing. Just Marcus. He's telling me about trying to cook paella. He set off the smoke alarm. His cat won't come out from under the bed. Marcus. The name hit me like a punch. It was just a name, but it felt huge, like a door slamming in my face. Of course there was a Marcus. A woman like Jordan, calm, kind, beautiful. Of course she had someone. Boyfriend. I tried to sound casual. Just curious. She shook her head, but the smile stayed. No. Just a guy from my class. He's funny. Always getting into trouble. It didn't matter. He was a guy. A possibility. Part of her life outside these walls. Outside my broken, stuck world. A cold feeling washed over me. It felt like disappointment. But I told myself it was relief. This was good. This was a boundary. A clear wall. Her kindness wasn't a sign. It was just who she was. My attention to her, this growing obsession, wasn't mutual. It was just me being isolated. Getting too attached because I was alone. The same thing that happened with Nicole. Marcus was my reality check. My wake-up call. He made her safe. He made me safe. I could keep accepting her help. Keep watching her from the couch. Without the scary risk of my feelings turning into something dangerous. Something that could hurt me again. Something like hope. I held on to the idea of Marcus like a lifeline. He was the reason this strange closeness between us could never be more. And for that, God help me, I was grateful. One night, the pain was unbearable. It wasn't the sharp pain from when I first broke my leg. This was different. This was a deep, constant ache. It spread from my bones through my whole body. It felt like my leg was being crushed slowly. The medicine didn't help. I couldn't sleep. Every position hurt. Every time I moved the blanket, the pain got worse. After hours of staring at the ceiling, watching the moonlight move across the wall, I gave up trying to sleep. Slowly, carefully, I got into the wheelchair. I rolled into the dark living room. Outside, the city glowed orange against the clouds. The world was asleep and peaceful. I felt completely alone. I stopped at the big window. I looked down at the empty street, at the occasional car passing by. And for the first time since the accident, I let myself cry. Not angry tears. Not frustrated tears. These were quiet tears of pure exhaustion. Of defeat. I was just so tired. Tired of the pain. Tired of the wheelchair. Tired of being helpless. Tired of fighting my own body and mind. tired of pretending to be strong when I was falling apart. A floorboard creaked behind me, loud in the silence. I quickly wiped my face with my hands. But it was too late. "Riley." Jordan's voice was thick with sleep, rough and soft at the same time. Light appeared as she opened her bedroom door wider. She stood there in the doorway, just a shadow in an oversized t-shirt and shorts, her hair loose around her shoulders. "Can't sleep," I said quietly, keeping my face toward the window. "Leg hurts. Didn't mean to wake you." She didn't turn on the big light. I was grateful for that. Instead, she went to the kitchen and turned on the small lamp over the stove. It made a soft, golden glow in the room. It was thoughtful, saving me from bright lights that would hurt my eyes. I heard the kettle click on, the sound of mugs, the rustle of the tea box. She came back a few minutes later with 2 steaming cups. The smell of chamomile tea filled the air. She handed one to me. Her fingers touched mine for just a second. It sent electricity through me. "My mom swears by this for everything," she said softly. She pulled a dining chair over to sit near me by the window. "Broken hearts, broken bones, broken sleep. It fixes everything." We sat in silence for a long time, sipping our tea. The quiet hum of the refrigerator the only sound. The warmth of the mug in my hands felt good. A small comfort. The darkness and the late hour made us both let our guard down. It created a space where we could say things we normally couldn't. "You know," I said finally, my voice barely a whisper, "the worst part isn't the pain." She waited, patient and still, giving me space to continue. "It's this." I moved my mug slightly, pointing to the wheelchair, my cast, everything. "It's the weakness. Not being able to do anything. I hate it. I hate feeling like you're not in control," she finished for me, her voice understanding. I nodded. A lump formed in my throat. I was in a relationship once. A while ago. I let myself depend on her too much. I lost myself completely. When it ended, I felt like I didn't know how to function alone. I promised myself I would never be that weak again. I didn't say Nicole's name. It felt dangerous. Too powerful to say out loud in this quiet space. "And now look at me," I continued, my voice breaking. "It's like the universe is laughing at me, making me be exactly what I promised I'd never be again." The confession hung in the air between us, raw and exposed. I had shared something I kept hidden from everyone, even my family. I expected her to say something like, "It'll get better," or maybe awkward silence. Jordan just looked at her mug, watching the steam rise and disappear in the dim light. "I don't think the universe is that clever," she said finally, her voice gentle but firm. "I think sometimes things just break, and needing help to fix them isn't weakness. It's just reality." She looked up at me then, her green eyes serious and intense in the dim light, holding my gaze. "You're the strongest person I know, Riley," she said, each word slow and meaningful. "Even sitting in that chair. Especially sitting in that chair." Her words hit me like a physical blow, taking my breath away. No one had called me strong in years. Nicole had called me needy, dramatic, exhausting, too much. My family treated me like I was fragile, like glass that might break. But Jordan, who had seen me at my absolute worst, called me strong. The honesty in her voice was clear. It went past all my defenses and landed somewhere deep inside, in the locked room of my heart. And it started quietly picking the lock. The tears started again, hot and unstoppable. But this time they weren't for the pain in my leg. They were for the unexpected relief of being truly seen, of being understood, of not being alone in the darkness. That late night talk changed something big between us. The air in the apartment felt different. Lighter, warmer. I had been vulnerable, and she hadn't pitied me or felt uncomfortable. She had just accepted it. And in return, Jordan began to share pieces of herself too. One evening while she was drawing, her pencil moving across the paper, she told me about growing up in a small town in Oregon. About how she'd always felt disconnected from everything until she discovered landscape design. It was the first time I felt like I could shape the world instead of just being pushed around by it, she said, a sad smile on her lips. Like I had some control, some power to create something beautiful. That feeling hit me deep. That's exactly what rock climbing had been for me. A way to prove I could conquer something, control something, master something in a world that felt chaotic. Another time, while she was helping me move from the couch to my wheelchair, something we'd gotten good at, she told me about her father's long illness when she was in high school. She talked about the endless hospital visits, the complicated medicine schedules, the heavy weight of responsibility on her teenage shoulders, how her mother fell apart and she had to hold everything together. I got really good at taking care of things, she said with a small, sad smile that broke my heart. Sometimes I think I'm better at taking care of other people than myself. I don't really know how to not be the one holding everything together, you know? It was a casual comment, but it explained everything. Her patience with me, her natural skill at helping, why she couldn't just let me struggle. It wasn't just her being kind. It was a skill she learned through love and loss. I was no longer just a broken person she was fixing. I was someone whose needs she understood deeply. The helper-patient dynamic began to fade, replaced by something more balanced, more real, more equal, something that felt dangerously like friendship. But it was more than friendship, and we both knew it. The humor came back first. It started small. One day, as she was rinsing my hair, some shampoo foam landed on my nose. Without thinking, I blew it off. It flew right into her face. She froze, a blob of white foam on her cheek, her eyes wide with surprise. Then slowly, a smile spread across her face, real and bright and beautiful. She started to laugh, a deep, musical laugh that filled the small bathroom. I found myself laughing too, a rusty sound I hadn't heard from myself in forever. "My apologies," I said, trying to sound sarcastic. "The spa service has been excellent, but the free foam facial was unexpected." She flicked a bit of water at me playfully. "It's a new treatment, very exclusive. You have to be special to get it." After that, the tension that had been constant between us began to ease, replaced by comfortable rapport. We started talking more, about everything and nothing, movies we loved and hated, books that changed us, her annoying professor, my sarcastic comments about the neighbors who fought every Tuesday. The silent evenings changed. Now they were filled with conversation and laughter, the kind of easy comfort that usually takes years to build. One night while we were watching a movie, some romantic comedy, I fell asleep on the couch. When I woke up, my head was resting on a pillow near her shoulder. A soft blanket was tucked around me. I didn't move. I didn't want to break the spell. I just lay there, breathing in her faint sandalwood scent, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. The shift came to a head in a moment that was both tiny and huge. I was in bed one night, trying to adjust the pile of pillows under my leg. I was getting stronger, the physical therapy was working, but the cast was still heavy, and positioning mattered for pain. I let out a grunt of frustration, struggling with a stubborn pillow. Jordan, who was passing my doorway, stopped. "Need a hand?" "Please," I sighed, giving in. She came over and began rearranging the pillows expertly. "You need a firmer one at the bottom. See, for a base." She reached under my cast to slide a pillow into place. As she pulled her hand back, her fingers brushed against my bare arm, just above the elbow. It was nothing. A quick, accidental touch that lasted half a second. But it wasn't nothing. A jolt, sharp and electric, shot through me like lightning, like touching a live wire, like fire. I sucked in a breath, loud in the quiet room. Our eyes met, and I saw the same shock in her eyes. Her pupils got bigger, her lips parted. The air between us suddenly felt thick, charged, humming with something new and terrifying. The moment stretched, frozen in time. Neither of us moved. Neither of us breathed. Her eyes flickered down to my mouth and then back up. So quick I might have imagined it. For a heartbeat, one impossible heartbeat, I thought she was going to lean in. I think I wanted her to more than I'd ever wanted anything. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the spell broke. She pulled her hand back like she'd been burned. Her cheeks flushed deep red. "There," she said, her voice a little too high, a little too bright. "Better." "Yeah," I breathed, my heart pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. "Thanks." She gave a tight nod and practically ran out of the room, her footsteps quick on the floor. I was left staring after her, my skin still tingling where she'd touched me, my whole world tilting. The safety net of Marcus was on fire, sinking fast. There was no denying it anymore. The careful walls I had built around my heart, the safe assumptions, the logical explanations, they had all been destroyed by a single accidental touch. This wasn't friendship. It wasn't gratitude. It wasn't me imagining things because I was lonely. It was desire, raw and honest and mutual. I could see it in her eyes, feel it in the air between us. The recognition was terrifying and thrilling, and I had no idea where I was going to land. After the touch, the apartment became a minefield. Every interaction was charged with meaning. Passing her a mug of coffee became an exercise in not touching, our fingers hovering inches apart. The space on the couch between us felt like both a huge gap and a powerful magnet pulling us together. I was painfully aware of everything about her. The heat she gave off, the way the air moved when she walked into a room, the sound of her breathing, her footsteps. My thoughts were a runaway train, every thought circling back to her. She's biting her lip again. I wonder if it's as soft as it looks. "Stop it, Riley. Stop it. You're doing it again. Falling into the same trap. She doesn't feel this. She can't. Stop." But I couldn't stop. I was powerless against it. The shower routine changed into something almost unbearable. It was no longer just helping. It was intimate, sensuous, deeply unsettling. I stopped trying to count tiles or escape in my mind. Instead, I found my gaze following the line of her collarbone, the curve of her neck where her dark hair was clipped up, the way her shoulders moved as she reached for the shower head. The scent of her, that earthy sandalwood, was intoxicating, dizzying. I felt the warmth of her hands through the washcloth as she gently washed my back, and I had to bite my cheek hard to keep from shivering. It had nothing to do with the water temperature. I started fighting the truth hard, pushing it down deep where it couldn't hurt me. She was my roommate. She was my helper. She was straight. This attraction was just my imagination, born from being alone and dependent. A ghost of a feeling from a life I'd cut away. But the ghost was aching, demanding my attention, refusing to be ignored. One afternoon she was standing at the counter, carefully wiping down the leaves of her plant with a cloth. Her face focused, her movements gentle. The afternoon sun came through the window, catching the small hairs on her arms, lighting up the curls that had escaped her bun, turning them into fire. She was so absorbed in the simple task, so present and tender and beautiful. A wave of pure longing washed over me, so strong it stole my breath and made my chest ache. It wasn't just physical desire, though that was there too, burning under my skin. I wanted to know what made her smile like that. I wanted to be the reason for that focused, tender look on her face. I wanted to stay in the quiet, steady space she lived in. In that moment, I stopped fighting. I accepted the terrifying, inconvenient truth I'd been running from. I was falling for her. No, I had already fallen. I was in freefall, and there was no stopping it now. The recognition didn't bring relief. It only brought deeper pain. Because what could I do with this truth? Tell her my feelings and destroy the fragile piece of our home? Make her uncomfortable? Turn her kindness into something she felt trapped by? No. The power balance was all wrong. I was the broken one, the dependent one, the one who needed her. Adding the weight of my unwanted feelings to her burden felt monstrously selfish. So I kept silent, but the silence was deafening. The turning point came during one of our regular shower times. She was rinsing the conditioner from my hair, her movements practiced and sure. I tilted my head back to help the water flow. A few drops from her wet hair fell onto my cheek like rain. She paused, her hand hovering in the air between us. "Sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the running water. She reached out with her thumb to wipe the droplet away. Her touch was light, but it burned my skin. I didn't flinch. I didn't pull away. I didn't pretend not to feel it. I just looked at her. My eyes met hers, and the world fell away completely. The sound of the water became distant. The steam disappeared. The cold tile beneath me ceased to exist. There was only the few inches of space between our faces. And her eyes, those impossible green eyes, wide and searching, vulnerable and scared. A question hung in them that matched the one screaming in my soul. Her gaze dropped to my lips, stayed there for a heartbeat that lasted forever. My breath caught. The air was thick, heavy, electric, crackling with possibility and danger. This was it. The edge. The moment before the fall. Time stretched and warped. A single second drawn out into forever. I could see the conflict on her face. The hesitation. The fear. But beneath it all, clear and real, the want. Then a shudder went through her. A tiny tremor I felt more than saw, and she pulled back, breaking the spell. She cleared her throat. The sound harsh. All rinsed, she said. Her voice strained and unnatural. She turned away quickly, turning off the water, her movements jerky and wrong. She wouldn't look at me again. But it was too late. We had both seen it. We both knew. The secret was out, even if not a single word had been spoken. And the knowledge of it hung between us like smoke. Beautiful and suffocating. A promise and a threat. The unspoken thing between us became a third presence in the apartment. A ghost that sat with us. That hovered over meals. That followed us into every room. The tension was no longer quiet. It was visible. A shimmering force that made the air feel thick and hard to breathe. We were clumsy around each other, both physically and with words. Sentences started and stopped mid-thought. We'd reach for the same thing and jump back like we'd been burned. The easy friendship we'd built was gone, replaced by painful awareness that made every moment feel dangerous. I found myself watching her every tiny expression, trying to understand the flicker of emotion in her eyes before she looked away. Was that longing? Or fear? Or worse, was it pity? My leg was healing faster than expected. I was moving from the wheelchair to crutches. A change that should have felt triumphant, but instead felt bittersweet and wrong. Each step toward independence was a step away from the forced closeness that had defined our lives for weeks. I was gaining my freedom, but losing my excuse to be near her. The thought filled me with cold, heavy dread. I was becoming exactly the person I'd sworn never to be again. The woman who built her whole world around another woman. One evening, I was on the couch, going through the boring physical therapy exercises my doctor had given me. Ankle rotations, leg lifts, resistance band work. When my phone rang with my sister's ringtone. Emma. I loved her, but her love often felt like a weapon. All sharp edges and hard hits. Hey, I answered, trying to sound cheerful. Just checking in, she said. Her voice quick and efficient as always. How's the leg? Are you still making that poor roommate of yours take care of you? Jordan's been great, I said, my voice tight and defensive. I glanced toward the table where Jordan sat with her headphones on, absorbed in her work. And I'm getting around on crutches now. I'm not helpless anymore. Good, Emma said, though she didn't sound convinced. Listen, Riley. Just be careful, okay? Don't do that thing you do. I knew exactly what thing she meant. My stomach clenched. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, even though I did. Oh, come on, she scoffed. I could hear her rolling her eyes. You get obsessed. You build these women up in your head into something they're not. And then you get crushed when they can't live up to your fantasy. Remember Nicole? You practically tried to become one person with her. It was unhealthy. It was scary to watch. Every word was a perfectly aimed dart, hitting fresh, tender wounds. She was saying all my deepest fears. All the ugly things I told myself in the darkest hours of the night. That my love was consuming. That I was too intense. Too much. Too overwhelming. That I saw saviors in women who were just being nice. The shame was so strong it made me feel sick. Thanks for the psychology lesson, Emma, I snapped. my voice harder than I meant. I've got it handled. I'm just saying, I don't want to see you get hurt again, she pressed. This girl, Jordan, she's probably just being nice because you live together. Don't read into it. Don't make it into something it's not. She's not your savior. Yeah, well, it's my life to mess up, I said, and hung up before she could say anything else. My hands were shaking. My vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. I looked over at Jordan. She had taken her headphones off, was watching me, her face full of concern I couldn't bear to see. The ghost of Emma's words hung in the air between us. Toxic and suffocating. She's just being nice. Don't read into it. She's not your savior. The doubt, the self-hatred, the familiar spiral of shame. It all came rushing back with crushing force. I had been delusional, pathetic. That moment in the shower, her lingering looks, the electric tension. I had invented it all, projecting my own desperate yearning onto someone who didn't feel the same. She wasn't feeling desire. She was feeling trapped by my neediness. I had to stop this before I hurt her. Before I consumed her the way I'd consumed Nicole. I had to push her away. For her own good. My affection was a cage. And I had to let her out before she suffocated. I stood abruptly, grabbing my crutches harder than necessary. I'm going to bed, I announced. My voice cold and sharp. I didn't look at her. Couldn't look at her. I just hobbled toward my room. Each jarring step a punishment I deserved. And shut the door firmly behind me. I needed to rebuild my walls. Higher and stronger than ever before. For a brief, foolish moment, I had forgotten who I was. A woman meant to be alone. A woman whose love broke everything it touched. The cold I projected into the apartment was immediate and brutal. I was short with her, answering her gentle questions with single words or grunts. I spent more time in my room with the door closed. A clear barrier between us. I avoided eye contact. I was desperately trying to rewind time. To go back to being polite, distant strangers sharing space. I told myself I was protecting her from me. But all I was doing was hurting us both. I could see the confusion and pain in her eyes every time I pushed her away. The light in her seemed to dim. Day by day, the apartment, which had started to feel like a home, warm and safe and full of possibility, once again felt like a prison. Only this time, I was the prison guard. After 2 days of this self-imposed freeze, she finally cornered me. I was in the kitchen, clumsily trying to make a sandwich while balancing on my crutches, when she appeared in the doorway, blocking my only escape. "Okay, what's going on?" she asked, her voice quiet but firm. She wasn't going to let me avoid her this time. "Nothing's going on," I said, focusing hard on spreading mustard on bread. "I'm just tired. Healing takes energy." "Don't lie to me, Riley," she said, and the raw emotion in her voice, the hurt, made me look up to spite myself. Her face showed pain. "Did I do something wrong? In the shower the other day, did I misread something? Did I make you uncomfortable?" The question was so full of genuine self-doubt that it shattered my icy walls into 1,000 pieces. She thought she was the one at fault. The unfairness of it, the backwards wrongness of it, broke something inside me. All the fear, the shame from Emma's phone call, the years of pain from Nicole, the overwhelming, terrifying love I felt for the woman standing in front of me. It all came rushing to the surface in an unstoppable flood. "No," I choked out, the word thick with tears. "You didn't do anything wrong. It's me. It's all me. It's always me." And then the dam broke completely. The words tumbled out in a messy flood. "My sister called," I started, my voice cracking. "She warned me, told me not to do the thing I do, not to get obsessed." I took a shaking breath. With Nicole, my ex, I suffocated her. I loved her so much I erased myself. And I think I tried to erase her too. Make her into what I needed. When she left, she told me I was too much. That loving me was like drowning. I finally looked at Jordan directly, tears streaming down my face, unable to stop them. "And I see it happening again with you. I am so completely, terrifyingly in love with you, Jordan. And it's not fair. You've been so kind. And I've twisted it into something else in my head because I'm broken and lonely and needy. I'm going to ruin you too if I don't stop. So I tried to push you away, to protect you from me. I finished, breathless and shaking, my heart laid bare and bleeding on the kitchen floor. I was convinced this was the end. I had laid all my ugly, broken pieces at her feet. I expected horror, disgust, for her to back away slowly, to finally see the monster I truly was. She didn't move. She just stood there, listening, her expression softening from hurt to something that looked like wonder, like revelation. When I was finally silent, spent and trembling, she slowly walked toward me, closing the distance between us until she was just inches away. She gently took the butter knife from my shaking hand, set it carefully on the counter. "Riley," she said, her voice a low, steady whisper that anchored me. She reached up and held my face with both hands, her thumbs wiping away the tears with infinite gentleness. "You haven't twisted anything, and you are not too much. You are exactly the right amount." My breath caught in my throat. "I've been waiting," she continued, her eyes locked on mine with fierce intensity. "I've been waiting for you to see me. Really see me. Not as your helper. Not as your straight roommate doing you a favor." She let out a small, shaky laugh. "For the record, Marcus is gay. He has a huge crush on our professor. He was just a convenient excuse for both of us, I think. A safe barrier." My mind spun, struggling to process what she was saying. "But I thought you seemed," I stammered. "You thought I was just being nice?" she finished, her lips curling into a small, sad smile. "Maybe it started that way. Maybe. But then I saw you. Not the woman with the broken leg. The fierce, brilliant, sarcastic woman hiding behind all that pain and fear. And I fell in love with you too." She leaned in, her forehead resting against mine, our breath mixing in the small space between us. "Your love doesn't feel like drowning, Riley," she whispered. "It feels like coming home." And then she kissed me. It wasn't hesitant or questioning. It was a kiss of absolute certainty, of release, of finally letting go. It was weeks of pent-up longing, of unspoken words, of stolen glances and silent yearning, all pouring out at once. It was desperate and hungry and achingly honest. I dropped my crutches. They clattered to the floor with a crash I barely heard. I wrapped my arms around her neck, holding on like she was the only solid thing in a spinning universe. She was. The kiss was messy with tears and relief and 3 years of walls crumbling into dust. It was raw and perfect and real. It wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The next morning, I woke to warmth and sunlight and the impossible reality of Jordan's arm around my waist. For the first time in weeks, in years, the first thing I noticed wasn't the dull ache in my leg. It was the steady rhythm of her breathing against my back. The weight of her. The solid presence of her. The air in the room felt clean, new, full of possibility. The ghost was gone. I lay there for a long time, just absorbing the quiet miracle of it. The simple, profound peace of not being alone. She stirred behind me, her arm tightening around me in sleep. "Morning," she mumbled into my hair, her voice thick and soft. "Morning," I whispered back, a smile spreading across my face. Real and effortless. We lay in comfortable silence, the kind that doesn't need to be filled with words. Then a familiar shadow crept into my mind. "Jordan," I said carefully, turning to face her. "We need to talk about this. About the situation. The power thing." She propped herself up on one elbow, her dark hair a beautiful mess around her face, her expression open, patient, ready to hear whatever I needed to say. "I was your patient," I said, the words tasting awkward. "You were taking care of me. I was completely dependent on you. I don't want you to feel obligated, or like I took advantage of your kindness when you were just trying to help." The old fears were still there, buzzing beneath my skin. She reached out and tucked a piece of hair behind my ear, her touch gentle and sure. "Riley, look at me." I met her gaze. "I wasn't taking care of a patient," she said firmly. "I was taking care of the woman I was falling in love with." The circumstances were complicated, yes. But my feelings aren't complicated at all. I chose to be there. I chose to help you. Every single time. It was never an obligation. Never a burden. Her honesty was like medicine on my frayed nerves. Soothing wounds I didn't know I still had. The only thing I felt obligated to do, she continued, a slow, beautiful smile spreading across her face, was wait until you were ready to see it too. To believe it. Tears pricked my eyes again. But this time they were tears of gratitude. Of relief. Of joy. So what now? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Now, she said, leaning in to kiss me softly. We figure it out together. We take it one day at a time. And when you get that cast off, you're taking me on a proper first date. Somewhere you choose. Somewhere we can walk in side by side. As equals. The simple, practical plan was exactly what I needed. It wasn't a vague promise. It was a real future. A goal to work toward. It was a promise of normal. Of a relationship that could exist outside the hard time of my recovery. Just then, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at it without thinking. A text from a number I hadn't seen in 3 years. Nicole, heard about your accident. Thinking of you. 3 years of silence. Broken by a casual, meaningless text that would have destroyed me months ago. A year ago, it would have sent me into a spiral of self-doubt and pain. 6 months ago, it would have been a bitter reminder of everything I'd lost. But now, lying next to Jordan, her warmth flowing into me, the message had no power. It was a ghost. A faint echo from a life I no longer lived. I looked at the screen. Then at the beautiful, real woman beside me. Without a second thought, I held down my thumb on the message and hit delete. I had made my choice. A few weeks later, the cast was gone. Replaced by a walking boot. I was still clumsy. Still slow. But I was mobile. I was on my own 2 feet again. Jordan and I were sitting on the small balcony of our apartment. A shared blanket over our laps. Watching the sky change from orange to purple over the city rooftops. The air was crisp with the promise of autumn, carrying the scent of wood smoke and falling leaves. Her sketchbook was open on her lap. But she wasn't drawing. She was just watching the sky, her head resting on my shoulder in comfortable silence. The quiet between us was no longer tense or heavy with unspoken things. It was comfortable, easy, full. It felt like home in a way nothing ever had before. I thought about the woman I was when I first came back to this apartment in that wheelchair. Brittle, angry, so deeply lonely. I had built a fortress around myself to keep the world out, convinced that being alone was strength. But all it had done was trap me inside with my own pain. It took being broken, being forced to accept kindness I thought I didn't deserve, to finally find the key to that locked room in my chest. Jordan hadn't saved me. She had just stood patiently outside the door until I was brave enough to open it myself. I looked over at her, at the soft curve of her smile lit by the dying light, at the way her eyes reflected the colors of the sunset, and I felt a quiet, steady hope settle deep in my bones. The path ahead wasn't guaranteed to be easy. There would be challenges, old wounds that needed healing, conversations we'd still need to have. But for the first time in a very long time, I knew I wouldn't be walking it alone. And that made all the difference. I spent 3 years climbing mountains to prove I didn't need anyone. But the truth? I was just running. Running from connection. Running from being vulnerable. Running from the possibility of love. Sometimes we don't find love when we're looking for it. Sometimes it finds us when we're broken. When we're vulnerable. When we finally stop running. If my story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about love that heals. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever pushed someone away because you were afraid of getting hurt again? See you in the next story.